Hi all, this is Kalman, and welcome to another Redstone video. Today I am in my house on the Hypixel network. If you don't know what that is, it's a Minecraft minigame server, and it's pretty cool. You can check it out at bacon.hypixel.net in Minecraft. But I'm here because recently they added partial redstone mechanics to their player housing. And what I mean by that is some components now work and others still don't. And it's been a very interesting challenge for me trying to design working things out of the parts that do work while working around the ones that don't. And I decided to put together this video guide to see if I could help some people with the components that you can use. So without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, I would like to go over the blocks that do not work. So first there is the detector rail. It does absolutely nothing. Then there is the repeater. It does absolutely nothing. Then there's the redstone torch, and it does give off power, but it doesn't work correctly in any other way. If you power the block that it's on, it will turn off, but it won't turn back on. And that makes it kind of useless for most things. Then we have the comparator, which does work partially. It will output a signal if it detects items in a container behind it, but that's all it does. It will not accept any redstone signal from any other source. And if you have, say, a full cauldron behind it and you pull that away with a piston, the comparator won't update. It will stay powered like that. It will only update if the container stays behind it and items are put into it or taken out of it. And lastly, we have the lever. It does work, but in order to use it, for some reason you need build permissions. And any guest that joins your house is not going to have those, obviously. So yeah, you could turn it on and off if you are an owner with build permissions, but besides that, it's pretty much useless. Now, two notes real quick. First of all, the lamps are kind of buggy here, so if the outputs look off, that's why. And second, these are all built out of order. I'm sorry about that. I placed them here while I created them and came up with them, and then I never went back and organized them. But I'll do my best to cut the video to put all the different parts together. First of all, here we've got repeater number 1, which also boosts signal strength. If we press the button, you can see the signal is carried onto this other wire here and powers this block. Then we have repeater number 2, silent, and also strongly powers the output. And by that I mean there's a comparator as the output, so you can make it run into a block, which will then power anything touching it. But if you press this button, you can see that it does indeed carry the signal on, and also has a bit of a delay as a repeater would. Be sure that you do have an item inside the dropper. Then there's NOT gate number 1. It also boosts the signal strength as the first repeater did, and if we press the button, you can see that it inverts the signal. And now NOT gate number 2, which is silent and pretty much the opposite of the second repeater design. You do have to make sure you power both blocks. I forgot to mention that with the repeater. You make sure the redstone powers both of them, or else the signal will just be a quick pulse. But right here, this NOT gate, you press the button, and the signal inverts just like that. And of course, make sure that you do have an item inside the dropper. Moving on, we have the first T flip-flop. And I have a big message right here stating why that's important. Like I said before, levers don't work if you're a guest. But a T flip-flop is pretty much the equivalent of a lever, and for some reason buttons can be pressed by anyone, even though levers can't. So if you combine those two, you can hook a button up to the T flip-flop, it toggles it on, you press again, it toggles it off. And this is awesome, because now you can have a lever that's a button anywhere you want. So if you were thinking you really wanted a lever for what you're making, but you couldn't find one because they don't work, well, now you can use one. And the second T flip-flop, which is one wide and tileable, so you can put them right next to each other. It uses a 0 Tek Pulse to this piston, so when you press the button, it will drop off its redstone block and power this output. And you press again, it will bring it back, and so on and so forth. As with all the other things that have droppers, make sure you have one item in the dropper. And the AND gate. So this one uses the fact that blocks will cut off a signal running diagonally. So if I press one button here, the output does not turn on. If I press the other button, the output does not turn on. But if I press both buttons, it does turn on until one of them turns off again, just like an AND gate should work. Then there are the two RS latches. The first one uses droppers, and it has a set and a reset button here. If I press the set button, it will set the output to on and keep it like that. And if I press the reset button, it will set it to off and keep it like that. Then the second one uses pistons. It works exactly the same way. If you press the set button, it will turn it on. And if you press the reset button, it will turn it off. We also have a couple of clocks here. The first one is silent and a little bit slow. It uses hoppers, and of course you need one item inside of them. And I broke the lamps to stop lag, but there you go. You can see the output in its full glory. And right next to that we have the Piston Clock, which is much faster, also very noisy, and also very fragile. But I will go ahead and place this redstone block right here. And the lamp there. You see it's so fast, the lamp is kind of glitching out. But a couple things that I want to say about this clock. First of all, if you leave the world, it has a chance of breaking when you come back. It will either leave the redstone block stuck over here without the piston to pull it back, or it will just be stuck right here, and even though the piston is being powered, it won't do anything. Also, sometimes if you place a block or just update the piston, well, sometimes it just vanishes like that, and I don't actually know why. But sometimes if you do a block update next to the piston, it will drop the block off over here. And so yeah, overall it's a very fragile clock, and you want to be careful with it and make sure you're keeping an eye on it whenever you think something could have messed it up, because it would stink if that broke and you didn't know it. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have the randomizer, and this is actually the design that I would use in any world. It conveniently worked here too. It has a dropper and a hopper. Inside the dropper you want a stackable item and a non-stackable item. I use boats because they're easy to get to in the menu, but you could use anything that doesn't stack, like a bed or a bucket full of water. Also, you want to make sure that you have 2 blocks of redstone dust leading away from it to make sure that it works correctly, because the comparator is giving out different signal strings based on the item. So I'll press the button 5 times just to show that it works. So 1, on, 2, on, 3, on, 4, off, 5, on. So yeah, it was kind of, it was a lot of ons, but it does work. It's a randomizer, and it does what it's supposed to. I would also like to show a few creations I designed with all of these parts, just to show off that they do work. So first of all is the one wide tileable lever button wall, and as the name suggests, it is a wall covered in buttons that act as levers. And you can press all these, they will turn on and off. And yeah, it's really nice. And I would like to mention there are 2 bugs with it. One is that sometimes the lamps will just stay on, and I have no clue why. The redstone is not powering them in any way, they just stay on until you place a block to update them. And 2, sometimes the pistons will just vanish from existence, as they did with that other clock. And if that happens over here, then you can just leave it, it's fine. The moment that it gets a redstone update, it will just reappear magically out of the void. I have no idea why that happens. It is just some housing bugs. But yeah, those are 2 things to be aware of. And this is what it looks like from the side. I actually got it a lot more compact and clean looking than I thought it was going to be. It's got the 0 Tek Pulse T flip-flop right here. And that's basically the whole thing. I had to put a weird thing here to get the signal to go downward. It uses quasi-connectivity on these pistons, which are constantly being updated by this very noisy redstone clock in order to get the signal to the level of the lamps. And there's a weird bug that sometimes happens as well, I guess I should point that out. Pistons will just randomly spout out new piston heads, and they go away if you right-click them or update them. I don't know why they do that. They don't actually work. They don't do anything. But yeah, just a few glitches in housing, so be aware of some weird things happening. Usually they don't mean anything. The other thing I would like to show is this escape room. It's not really an escape room, but I thought it was a good showcase of how these different parts can work. So here we have 2 lever buttons. You can press them, turn them on and off, turn it on and off. This door is closed though, we need to get out. So if we press both of these, ta-da, now you can escape. And there's also a pressure plate out here, and when you step on that, it resets the entire thing. All the levers are now off again. And I think that's really convenient if you want to run a fully automated plot, and you can just have some way of queuing people through. As soon as one person finishes, it resets and the next person go through. Alright, future Kalman here. I would like to give a few more notes about this T flip-flop. I forgot to go over them earlier. So it is kind of finicky, and sometimes the droppers will just not fire in the correct order, and it won't work, and you'll be sad. And a good example of it is over here by the escape room. I've got one of the T flip-flops set up right here, and if I press the button, it turns on. Press again, it turns off, and it works perfectly fine right now. But you can see this other redstone line that's going to power it from the exit here to reset everything. If I step on that, it resets it, it's fine, it's off now. But next time I press this button, it doesn't work. I have to press it a second time in order to make it work. And that's because usually the item will be either in this top dropper right here, or it will be in the back one right here, and it should never sit in this one right here. So it always toggles from this one to that one to this one to that one. When you step on the reset plate, however, so let me put it back to the on state. And you step on that, well, now the item is not in this one, and it's not in this one, it's ended up in this one. And it shouldn't be there. And the only difference is that the power is coming from here instead of here. And it's really strange. I had a similar issue over here, and for some reason putting the wiring like this fixed it. And I haven't messed with fixing this one yet. I'm sure I'll find a solution similar to this one. But the moral of the story is, be careful with this T flip-flop, and please check it before you actually leave it in your circuit like that. Make sure that it does work like you intend it to. Well, I think that's about everything I wanted to show off in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I especially hope that you found some of it useful. And if you'd like to check out some of these things in game, feel free to join my plot on the Hypixel network. My username is atypical, spelled as up at the top there. And yeah, you can come see all the signs that I've placed with lots of notes on all these different parts. You can see how they're built in person, which can sometimes help you. It's easier than trying to pause a video. So yeah, come join. If I am online at the time, you can ask me questions. If not, I have a mailbox you can send me messages at. And of course, my house is not always online. If I am not logged into the game, it won't be. And aside from that, if you have any components that you would like me to feature in this world, please let me know. I would be very honored if you sent me designs, and I would love to fill out the world with as many parts as I can. I just want it to be a helpful collection of parts that anybody can come and look at and find exactly what they need for what they're building. So with all of that said, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye! Oh, were you expecting something hidden at the end of this video? Well, alright, how about this? If you get into my housing while I'm online and say the phrase, "I'm a bandito," in chat, I'll promote you to resident.